one of the projects that the working group did was to conduct a study and to publish that study, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But we also put together a collection of articles, and these are the authors that contributed to that. And that book will be out the first week of October is actually the scheduled release date. And we've been able to arrange, because the publisher really wanted to have SIMS have a relationship with SIM, we were able to negotiate a 40% discount to anyone, pretty much anyone in IT we wanted to give it to, and we're going to make that available on the working group's website. So please do keep in touch with the working group's website, and you'll be able to get 40% off on the book, unless you prefer to pay retail. And as that little yellow thing said a minute ago, we have a meeting coming up May 27th and 28th in Dallas, and we always welcome new members. More information about that on the working group's website too. So let's get started with today's program. If you can't see it, understand it, know it, measure it, then you can't effectively manage it, build it, fix it, especially if it's big or involves complexity and change, like an enterprise. And in this talk today, enterprise and organization are basically synonyms. In fact, they are synonyms. So if you doubt that this is true, look at the countless companies that were AAA or A+ or however whatever rating service you want to look at 24 months ago, and how what they didn't know about themselves nearly, and in some cases literally, destroyed them. Were they too big to fail? Well, maybe you could say that, but I would suggest to you that what they really are is too big to manage given current practices. Let me share an example with you of what I'm talking about. Now, this talk is not about a particular approach or method or tool or certification or philosophy or methodology or anything else about, doing EA. What this talk is about today is how EA changes not just how you see enterprises, but potentially how we would look at it, just about everything. And that's because enterprise architecture in particular is the application to organizations of system thinking and architectural principles like unambiguous and comprehensive communication. In other words, having a meeting of the minds, just like the architect and the owner and the subcontractors and general contractor have some kind of meeting of the mind in order to build a building, and about using principles of decomposition while maintaining a holistic context. In other words, considering the whole as well as the parts basically simultaneously. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, this is a C-level view of a Fortune 100 company through its enterprise architecture. Although this is not the enterprise architect's view of it, this is the manager's view of it, although this view could also be useful to the enterprise architect. The file folder model is intuitively familiar to us, so we can pick up on that quickly and understand that we're looking at different aspects, dimensions of the enterprise. And as you can see, the top is about business kinds of things, and the bottom is about geeky or technology kinds of things. And in the middle we have where these two dimensions of the enterprise, for lack of a better word, come together into different activities and initiatives. So the CIO of this organization was unhappy with the organization that was providing them a database management system, and basically wanted to change vendors. He wanted to take what would be a subsystem view and say, look, a database management system is an interchangeable part. They all basically do the same thing, so let's get a new one. He called in his chief architect and said, hey, let's look at this. And they opened up the hood and they said, okay, well, our applications and our data stores are very dependent on this, but we have excellent IT practices. We could manage this. We know how to phase this in. We could actually manage such a change. We have certainly made complicated changes in the past. Let's look a little bit deeper and see how this might affect business operations. Oh, And suddenly, the CIO knew that there was too much risk involved, and that replacing the DBMS was not really a realistic option, given the amount of risk that it would place the value-creating parts of the enterprise and the ability to generate revenue and take care of customers. This is the power of enterprise architecture. This is the power of knowing the enterprise. This is the power of being able to see what we really cannot see. It's been about 22 years since the first article was published proposing how the principles of architecture and engineering could and should be applied to managing organizations and their information technologies. Now, that's equivalent to about 1945 in the history of the quality movement, which officially began with a pamphlet that was published in 1925, or about 40 years before the quality is job one slogan became the advertising image of a major U.S. auto manufacturer. Or taking the latest reasonable starting date, about 1800 in the history of the industrial age, when there were about 500 steam engines on the planet Earth, pretty much all of them residing in England, and none of them really working all that well. So the point of that is that we're still pretty early in the game. We're 20, 25 years into this. So we're still learning about this. And the current state is that we're debating what enterprise architecture is. We're basically arguing over turf and methods, and basically we're doing what enterprise architecture is actually about getting us to stop doing. And what we've been doing for decades to our organizations, our communities, our society, and maybe even to our lives, and that is disintegrating everything. We optimize the parts while the whole basically falls apart, disintegrates. And the parts cannot survive without the whole. Enterprise architecture really is about united we stand, divided we fall. And that applies not just to the founding of a country, but to our country today, to our communities, to our organizations, to our families. Relative to the organization and to IT in particular, EA is the glue that ties it together. Ties together things like business and IT planning, including strategy, but standards management, project management, portfolio management, things that we typically think of as stovepipe separate parts, governance, IS development. Loosely connected, but not really connected. Governance, IS development, operations management, continuity of our operations, disaster recovery, and everything else. And tying it together, gluing it together, providing that united we stand, divided we fall. In order to achieve whatever your goals and objectives are, be they alignment, cost-cutting, efficiency, simplicity, agility, interoperability, reuse, whatever they are, EA is about seeing the world, and organizations in particular, differently. In other words, it's about applying to the life of organizations Socrates' recommendation for having a fulfilling and successful life. And, Socrates had a consulting company today, maybe this would be his slogan. So what is an organization? This is a practical question, since you can't manage what you don't understand, but it's also a philosophical question. And the branch of philosophy is metaphysics. The study of the existence of something. Ontology, the activity, is doing ontology. There's also the result of doing ontology, or ontology, the thing. Now, in ontology, the thing is a shared understanding of some subject, a conceptualization, an explicit, agreed-upon specification of something that interests you, like an enterprise, or, an airplane.